When I look back at my restless younger days, I see a man who didn't know how to close his eyes without fighting a battle in his head first. Back then, I thought sleep was like a prize I had to earn, and every mistake, every worry, every regret made me feel less worthy of it. So each night I lay in bed with the lights off but the mind still wide awake, stubbornly replaying my failures and what-ifs. If you asked me then why I couldn't sleep, I would have blamed money, work, the children's future, my health. And yes, all those things played their part, but the real thief of my rest was my own belief that worrying was my duty. I thought if I didn't worry enough, something bad would catch me unprepared. So I guarded my little world through the night, wide-eyed, bone-tired, yet too proud to admit that my fear of life was stealing life itself from me. One night, decades ago, I remember staring at the ceiling so long that dawn arrived before sleep did. The birds outside were already awake, and my mind was still weaving new fears from old threads. I got up, looked at myself in the mirror, and for the first time I saw a man who was not protecting his family but punishing himself for caring too much about everything he could not control. It took me years, too many years, to understand that sleep is not earned by solving all of life's puzzles. Sleep is a gift, offered freely every night, and all it asks for is our permission to rest. If you're listening to me now, I imagine maybe you too have spent nights tangled in thoughts that would not leave you alone. Maybe you are here because your mind is still awake when your body begs for peace. If so, know this, you are not alone. An old soul is here, sitting by this imaginary fire with you, telling you that sleep is not your enemy, and neither are your thoughts. I will share with you what changed my nights from storms to quiet rivers. Not secrets, not tricks, but small shifts in how I hold my fears, how I greet my worries, and how I forgive myself for not having all the answers before the sun goes down. I hope my words feel like a warm blanket on your shoulders, and if they do, I invite you to stay with me for the next parts of this story. You see, when I started talking about these things, some people told me, "Why share this? Everyone has worries. Just let people be." But I have learned that telling my truth does not burden others, it lightens my heart and maybe, just maybe, lightens yours too. And so, my friend, if you find comfort here, if my voice feels like company on your lonely nights, you are welcome to come back anytime. Some who listen like to call this place our little corner of old soul stories. You can think of it that way too. If you wish, you may even tap that little subscribe button below, not for me, but for you. So you don't forget to come back when the nights get long again, and you need a quiet voice to remind you that tomorrow can be softer than yesterday. Tonight, as I share the first piece of my journey to peaceful sleep, I ask nothing of you except your presence. Let your shoulders drop, unclench your jaw, and know that you owe the world nothing at this hour. For now, your only job is to rest your thoughts beside mine. In the next parts, I'll tell you about the mistakes that kept my pillow cold and how I learned, slowly and clumsily, to make peace with my restless mind. But for now, stay here with me a little longer. Listen. Breathe. And if my words bring you the smallest bit of comfort, remember that this old storyteller is always waiting by the fire for you to return. I sometimes think the hardest part of worry is not the problem itself, but the way it tricks you into believing you are strong only if you never stop thinking. I believed this for years. Even as my bones grew heavy and my mind begged for rest, I refused to close my eyes until I felt I had prepared for every possible disaster. But worry is a hungry guest. It never leaves your table satisfied. Feed it tonight, and tomorrow it knocks again, asking for more of your thoughts, more of your peace. In my younger days, I thought I was being a good man, a responsible father, by letting worry sit beside my bed like a guard dog. Instead, it was more like a thief, stealing my nights and my mornings too. I remember one winter when work was uncertain and bills piled up on the kitchen counter like angry letters. That season, sleep abandoned me completely. Some nights, I didn't even bother lying down. I sat at the table with a cup of cold tea, staring at the numbers on the papers, trying to rearrange them in my head until they made sense. They never did. During those months, my wife would find me at dawn, my eyes red and my shoulders slumped. She would touch my arm and whisper, "Come to bed. You need to sleep." But I would shake my head, pretending I was close to solving everything, when in truth, I was no closer than I had been the night before. What a stubborn man I was. I thought sacrificing my rest was noble. I thought people would see my tired eyes and know how hard I was trying to be a good provider, a good protector. I thought this would earn me respect. But the only thing my sleeplessness truly gave me was a bitter temper and a dull mind that forgot small joys. You see, worry is clever. It dresses itself in good intentions. It says, "Stay awake, keep watch, your family depends on you." But the truth is, my family needed me awake in the day, not sleepless at night. They needed my laughter, my patience, my gentle touch, not my hollow-eyed fear staring past them at ghosts in my mind. I missed so many little things because I was too busy fighting monsters that never came. I missed my daughter's stories about her day at school. I missed my wife humming in the kitchen as she cooked our dinner. I missed my own heartbeat, steady and alive, while I hunted for problems that did not exist. Some people think insomnia is only about the body, the bed too hard, the room too bright, the clock ticking too loud. Sometimes that's true. But for me, it was my mind that was the restless bed, the noisy clock, the bright light that refused to dim. If you are listening now and see yourself in my words, I want to tell you this: you are not foolish for caring. You are not weak for wanting to protect the people you love. But you do not have to prove your love by destroying your own peace. The world spins whether you sleep or not. Bills can wait until morning. Problems look smaller in the daylight. And the people who love you want you rested more than they want you broken. It took me too long to see this. Many nights, I thought if I just worried hard enough, maybe money would appear, sickness would disappear, people would change. But life does not bargain with fear. It listens more kindly to trust. And trust is the one thing I had to learn the hard way. There's an old saying I once heard from my grandfather: if you cannot sleep, get up and do something gentle until sleep calls you back. For years, I ignored this wisdom. I stayed in bed wrestling my own thoughts, believing I could win. Now, I understand. You do not win against worry by fighting it at midnight. You win by opening the door for it during the day and kindly showing it out before sunset. In the next part, I will tell you about the small but powerful moments that made me question my old ways. The things I lost because I chose to worry instead of living. And how I finally decided to forgive myself for the nights I spent awake for nothing. So, if these words feel like your own story, come back and sit with me again. We will talk more by this quiet fire, two restless minds learning to rest at last. I wish I could tell you that sleepless nights only made me tired. If that were true, perhaps I would not regret them so much. But the truth is, losing sleep does more than steal your energy. It steals your patience, your softness, your ability to see the beauty in simple things. In the years when worry ruled my nights, I became a man who was always physically present but rarely truly there. I sat at the breakfast table with my family, but my mind was still at the kitchen counter, counting unpaid bills or replaying arguments from the day before. My wife would ask me if I heard what she said, and I would nod, ashamed that I had not heard a single word. My daughter once told me, years later, when she was grown, that she used to watch me stare past her as she spoke. She would tell me about her friends, her little victories at school, her silly fears, and I would nod and smile, but my eyes were glazed with thoughts she could not reach. "You were always so far away, Dad," she said to me softly one evening, and I swear my heart cracked right there on the old porch where we sat. I lost moments I cannot buy back now. I lost laughter at the dinner table, small jokes that would have become warm memories. I lost quiet evenings when my wife wanted to sit close and just be near each other, but I was too restless to settle down. Sometimes she would place her hand on my knee, hoping to anchor me to the present. Sometimes she would sigh and turn away, leaving me alone with my thoughts that never gave me peace. And then there was my health, the part we often ignore until it demands our full attention. In my restless years, headaches became my shadow. My heartbeat raced for no reason in the dark. I drank too much coffee to stay awake in the day and too much wine to try to sleep at night. My doctor told me gently, "Rest is your medicine, but you keep refusing to take it." He was right, but what did he know about the storm in my mind, I thought. So I nodded politely and kept repeating my old mistakes. It took a toll I did not notice all at once. Small things at first, forgetting where I left my keys, snapping at my children for tiny accidents, feeling exhausted at work before the day even began. I blamed stress, age, bad luck, anything but my own refusal to rest. Looking back now, I see how stubborn and foolish I was. I know now that when sleep leaves you, your soul grows thinner. The world loses its colors. Little problems feel like mountains because your mind no longer has the strength to step over them lightly. A well-rested mind can forgive easily, can laugh off small annoyances, can comfort loved ones gently. A tired mind is a cruel master. It barks, it worries, it doubts, it regrets. It turns you into a version of yourself you do not like, but cannot escape because you are too tired to change. I remember the worst fight I ever had with my wife. It was late at night. I was already worn thin from 3 days of no real sleep. She asked me a simple question, whether I had paid the electricity bill, and I exploded. My words were sharp, my voice too loud. I saw the hurt in her eyes and I hated myself for putting it there. But in that moment, I could not stop. I was too empty to be kind. In the morning, I sat alone in the kitchen, the quiet house mocking me with its stillness. She had taken our daughter to her parents for the weekend. My hands trembled as I poured myself a cup of cold coffee. And for the first time, I did not blame money or bad luck. I knew I had given too much of myself to worry and left nothing for the people who loved me most. That morning was the beginning of a small awakening for me. I understood, finally, that my sleeplessness was not a sign of love or strength. It was a thief dressed in good intentions. It had stolen parts of my health, my marriage, my fatherhood, precious things I should have protected more fiercely than any imagined disaster in my head. In this part of my story, I do not ask you to feel sorry for me. I share these regrets so you might pause tonight when your mind starts replaying the same tired fears. I hope you remember that the cost of worry is not paid in money or missed deadlines, it is paid in missed moments, forgotten laughter, and the quiet heartbreak of the people who want you present more than perfect. In the next part, I will tell you about the day I reached my limit, the day my body forced me to listen to what my heart had been whispering for years: rest, or lose yourself completely. Until then, sit here with me a little longer. Let my regrets be the gentle warning you need. May your pillow tonight feel softer knowing that you do not have to earn your rest by worrying first. You only have to accept it. They say every stubborn soul meets a moment when the body speaks louder than the mind. For me, that moment came quietly, but left an echo I still hear today. It was a spring morning, not so different from any other, except that I hadn't really slept for 4 nights in a row. My eyes burned, my head felt like a heavy stone balanced on a weak neck. But I kept moving as if I was fine. I told myself, one more day, one more problem to solve, then I'll rest. I was driving to work on a narrow road lined with sleepy trees. The sun was warm, birds chirped like they always did, but none of it touched me. Inside, my thoughts were screaming over each other: bills, deadlines, a fight with my brother, worries about my daughter's school. I was so far from that road that I didn't even see the red light until the car ahead slammed its brakes. In that single second, something inside me snapped, not in anger, but in clarity. I didn't crash, thank heavens. I braked hard, my heart pounding, my hands trembling on the wheel. But as I sat there, a line of angry drivers honking behind me, I realized how close I was to losing everything because I refused to rest. That afternoon, I did something I hadn't done in years. I left work early. No explanations. I just told my manager I needed to take care of myself, words I had never dared to say. I drove home, turned off my phone, closed the blinds, and lay on the bed without a plan to fix anything. At first, my mind protested. It threw every fear it could find at me. What about the bills? What about tomorrow's meeting? What if you get fired? But for once, my body didn't care. I felt an exhaustion so deep that my chest ached. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, and whispered to the empty room, I can't carry this anymore. Then I did something small but powerful. I forgave myself for being human. For needing rest. For failing to be the unbreakable man I always pretended to be. I said, you are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to sleep. And somehow, that permission unlocked the door my worry had kept closed for years. I slept for hours that afternoon. It was not perfect sleep. I woke up a few times, heart racing, mind tugging at old fears. But each time, instead of fighting, I reminded myself gently, you are safe now. You can rest again. When I woke up, the world hadn't ended. The bills were still there, the problems unchanged. But I was a little softer inside, a little less afraid of the dark. It was the first true step toward peace I had taken in decades. After that day, I promised myself I would not wait for another close call to take care of my weary mind. So I began experimenting with small ways to quiet my thoughts long before bedtime. I did not transform overnight, old habits cling tightly. But piece by piece, I learned that caring for my sleep was an act of love, not laziness. I told my wife what I was trying to do. She listened quietly, then held my face in her gentle hands and said, I missed you. Please come back to us fully. Those words hurt and healed me at the same time. If you are here now, perhaps you too have pushed yourself too far, believing rest is a luxury you cannot afford. Maybe you feel guilty when you stop to breathe. If so, listen to this old heart, rest is not earned by endless sacrifice. It is a right given to you the moment you entered this world, small and helpless and loved simply because you existed. In the next part of my story, I will tell you how I built small rituals to invite sleep back into my nights. No miracle cures, no complicated secrets, just gentle habits that remind the mind that the body is safe, and tomorrow will wait its turn. For now, sit here by this quiet fire with me a little longer. Let my small turning point remind you that your own body is wiser than your worries. May you listen when it whispers, enough for today. Come home to yourself. Come home to rest. In the early years of my struggle with sleep, I thought a miracle would come and rescue me, maybe a perfect pill, maybe a lucky windfall that would erase all my problems overnight. But as you already know, life is rarely that kind and never that simple. What finally saved my restless nights was not some grand solution, but a handful of humble rituals, repeated so gently that my mind slowly learned to trust the darkness again. I call them my evening promises, small acts that tell my tired body, you are safe now. Let go. I did not invent anything special, but each piece stitched itself into a blanket of comfort that covers me when the world turns quiet. I begin with tea. Not the bitter black tea of my working days, that would wake an old ghost inside me who loves to pace the floors at midnight. No, I make a simple herbal tea, warm and calming. Sometimes chamomile, sometimes lemon balm, sometimes just hot water with a slice of ginger if my chest feels tight from worry. I hold the cup with both hands, feeling its warmth sink into my palms. It makes me slow down. The steam rising gently is like a signal that the day's noise is fading. While I sip, I turn on soft music, nothing grand, usually old piano songs or the sound of rain. You would be surprised how many nights I fall asleep just listening to the rain's quiet conversations with my roof. Then, I dim the lights in my small living room. Bright lights at night tell the mind to stay awake, so I learn to soften everything. A small lamp by my chair. The gentle flicker of a candle on my table. Shadows dancing slowly across the walls make the room feel like a safe cave, far from the sharp edges of the day. Sometimes I read a few pages from a well-worn book. Not the news, never the news. I learned the hard way that news is a meal for worry, not for peace. Instead, I read old poems, stories of kind people doing kind things. Or I read letters my daughter wrote me long ago, each word reminding me that I am loved, flaws and all. And when I feel the old fear scratching at the door of my mind, I do not fight it anymore. I whisper to it, "Not tonight, old friend. Tonight we rest." And I remind myself of this truth: worry loves company, but rest does too. Tonight, I choose rest as my companion. You may wonder, does this always work? The honest answer is no, nothing always works for an anxious heart. But these small rituals remind me that I am not powerless. They are not a magic spell to erase every worry. They are a gentle invitation to my mind: lay down your armor. Sleep wants to visit you. Let it come. I also stopped punishing myself for nights when sleep takes longer to arrive. I used to lie in bed counting the minutes, growing angry with every passing hour. Now, if sleep runs late, I accept its delay like an old friend who gets lost on the way but always finds me eventually. I sit up, make more tea, read another page, listen to the rain again. No panic. No self-blame. Just a quiet knowing that rest will come when it is ready. On the nights when sleep comes quickly, I wake feeling grateful. On the nights when it comes slowly, I wake grateful anyway, because I did not torture myself with worry about why I was awake. And this, my friend, is perhaps the greatest lesson: peaceful sleep is not just about sleeping through the night. It is about refusing to let fear turn your bed into a battlefield. If you ever feel curious to try my little ways, please do. Find your own evening promises. Light a candle, hold a warm cup, listen to gentle music that cradles your thoughts instead of stirring them. Speak kindly to yourself as you would to a beloved child. Tell your mind, you are safe here. You can rest tonight. I do not claim these rituals will change your life overnight. But they changed mine, one quiet evening at a time. And if an old, stubborn worrier like me can find softness again in the dark, I believe you can too. In the next part, I will share what I learned about forgiving myself before sleep, the heavy guilt I carried for years, and how letting it go made space for rest to come more easily. But for now, stay here with me. Let the warmth of this imaginary fire remind you that the night is not an enemy, it is a soft place to lay down what the day demanded from you. If you wish, you may return tomorrow for the next piece of my story. And if these words feel like gentle company, know that this old soul will be waiting by this fire, ready to whisper again when you need it most. If someone asked me why sleep feels so impossible some nights, I would say this: it's not always fear of tomorrow that keeps us awake. More often, it's the regret from yesterday whispering in the dark. I spent so many nights punishing myself for mistakes I could no longer touch. Words I should not have said, words I should have spoken but swallowed instead. Times I was harsh with my children when they only wanted my patience. Moments I looked away from my wife's quiet sadness because I was too proud to admit I was wrong. Regret is a sharp guest in the night. It sits on the edge of your bed, reminding you of what cannot be undone. And the cruelest trick of all is that when you're tired and alone in the dark, regret sounds like truth and judgment at the same time. It says, "You failed. You don't deserve to rest." And we believe it, because who are we to argue with our own conscience? For years, I tried to outrun my guilt. I stayed busy, thinking if I worked enough, paid enough, provided enough, it would erase the things I did poorly before. But guilt does not tire. It waits until you are quiet and soft, and then it knocks on your mind's door asking, "Remember what you did?" One evening, long after my children had grown and my hair had turned gray, I sat alone in the dark living room, lit only by the glow of a single lamp. I felt the old weight on my chest, the list of things I wish I had done better. But that night, maybe because age had softened my pride, I did not fight it off. I spoke back, gently. I said to myself, "Yes, I failed. Many times. But I am still here. I am still trying. And maybe that is enough for tonight." You see, forgiveness is not always a grand moment. Sometimes it is a quiet surrender. A whisper that says, "You cannot fix the past, but you can be kind to yourself now." Since that night, I have made it my habit to forgive myself before I close my eyes. I do it the same way every evening, like washing my hands clean after a day of work. I sit on the edge of my bed, close my eyes, and replay the day. If I spoke too harshly, I promise myself to soften my words tomorrow. If I forgot to listen fully, I promise to be more present next time. Then I say, "You did what you could today. Sleep now. Be human again tomorrow." Some people might think this is silly, talking to oneself like a child. But I have learned that my mind is like a stubborn boy, it listens best when spoken to gently. Blame never made me better. Forgiveness made me softer, and softness brought me sleep. I wish I had learned this lesson when I was younger, that forgiving myself was not weakness but wisdom. That punishing myself every night did not change what I regretted, it only made me too tired to do better the next day. So if you find yourself lying awake tonight, replaying old mistakes, I ask you to try this. Place your hand over your heart and say softly, "I am more than my mistakes. I will rest now. Tomorrow I will try again." No one can grant you perfect forgiveness, only you can loosen the chain regret wraps around your mind. And once you do, you will find that sleep is waiting patiently, like a kind friend, ready to wrap you in quiet mercy. In the next part of my story, I will share how I made peace with the truth that even with all my rituals and forgiveness, some nights still do not go as planned, and how that is perfectly all right. For tonight, may you forgive yourself for what you could not do, for what you did not know, for who you were before you learned better. May your pillow hold not just your head, but your softer heart. And may tomorrow greet you with kinder thoughts because tonight, you chose to rest instead of regret. If you've listened to me this far, perhaps you are hoping that I will tell you a foolproof way to sleep soundly every night. I wish I could. But honesty demands that I confess, even now, with all my small rituals and softer thoughts, there are nights when sleep still hides from me like a shy animal in the woods. At first, these stubborn nights felt like betrayal. I would lie awake, feeling angry with myself. After all I've learned, why am I still awake? What did I do wrong this time? That anger, of course, only fed the sleeplessness. Worry loves nothing more than my old habit of blaming myself for being human. One winter, not too many years ago, I found myself awake at 2 in the morning, staring at the shadows dancing on my ceiling. My old friend, the voice of worry, whispered the same questions. What if you fail tomorrow? What if you forget something important? What if you never sleep well again? In the past, I would have fought back, tossing, turning, counting minutes with growing dread. But that night, perhaps because I was older, perhaps just tired of fighting, I decided to try something new. I welcomed the wakefulness. I whispered into the dark, "All right then, if sleep does not wish to come now, I will rest without it." I sat up, swung my feet to the cold floor, and made myself a cup of warm water. I did not look at my phone, no news, no harsh light. Instead, I wrapped a blanket around my shoulders and sat by the window, watching the quiet street. The world outside was still breathing gently, even if I could not yet join its dream. I thought about all the other people awake at that hour, the new mother rocking her baby, the night shift nurse changing sheets for the sick, the old man in another city who, like me, listens to the clock tick. I realized I was not alone. Somehow, that thought softened the sharp edge of my wakefulness. I told myself, you do not have to sleep right now. You only have to be kind to your tired mind. Sleep will find you when it is ready. And when I returned to my bed, I did not force my eyes shut. I lay there, breathing slowly, forgiving the night for not obeying my wish. Eventually, somewhere between my patient inhales and the soft beating of my heart, sleep came like a quiet guest, and I woke to sunlight instead of bitterness. Since then, I have made peace with the truth that sleep is not something to be hunted or chained. It is a gentle creature that visits when we create space for it, but sometimes it runs late, and that is no reason to punish ourselves. On nights when my mind decides to wander at odd hours, I accept it as part of being human. I remind myself, you have survived sleepless nights before. You will survive this one too. Some of my friends ask me, but what if I have work tomorrow? What if I can't function? To them, I say what I say to myself, worry about tomorrow's tiredness does not reduce it, it doubles it. On nights when sleep is thin, I promise myself that I will be gentle the next day, drink more water, move slowly, forgive my yawns. And when I can, I close my eyes for a midday nap without guilt. The world does not collapse when we rest. This acceptance changed my nights more than any pill or advice I ever tried. When I stopped demanding perfect sleep, sleep stopped hiding so often. Like a shy animal, it trusts me more now because I do not chase it with fear. So, my dear listener, if tonight your eyes remain open longer than you wish, do not measure every minute as a failure. Instead, lie there like a child listening to the soft hum of the night. Listen to the far-off barking of a dog, the sighing wind, your own breath whispering that you are safe, even in wakefulness. In the next part, I will share how I learned to use the gentle dawn, those moments after a restless night, to forgive myself again and begin the day softly, without shame for the hours lost to wakefulness. For now, may you remember that you do not have to win sleep by force. May you rest in the simple truth that even an imperfect night can be kind if you meet it with a forgiving heart. When I was younger, a sleepless night meant I would punish myself twice, first by tossing and turning in the dark, then by dragging my feet through the next day, scolding my tired mind for not being strong enough to rest. I thought this was discipline. In truth, it was just cruelty, the kind we inflict on ourselves when we believe we must be perfect. It took me far too long to understand that a bad night does not have to create a bad day. The sun still rises, the world still turns, and my tired eyes can still see small beauty if I choose to look. One morning, after a long restless night, the kind where my thoughts jumped like restless birds from one worry to another, I woke up with my old habit, blame. Why couldn't you sleep again? Now you will ruin everything today. Now you will snap at people you love. Now you will fail. These were the first thoughts to greet me before the sun even touched my window. But that morning, perhaps because my heart was softer, I decided to try something new. I whispered back to myself, you did not fail. You are simply awake. And today, you can still be kind, even if you are tired. Instead of forcing myself to rush through my routine, I moved slower. I opened the window and let the cool air brush my face. I drank a glass of water, feeling it travel down my throat like a promise that my body still knew how to care for itself. I made my tea, not the strong kind that jolts the heart awake, but the gentle kind that says, "Easy now, we will move through this day together." On days after poor sleep, I treat myself like I would treat a child who had a bad dream, with softness, with extra patience, with small kindnesses that cost nothing but heal more than scolding ever could. If work feels too heavy, I break it into smaller pieces. I pause often. I forgive my forgetfulness. If I yawn during a conversation, I smile instead of apologizing. I remind myself that being human means sometimes we are not at our best, and the people worth keeping in our lives will understand this truth. One habit that helps me most is stepping outside, even for a few minutes. I stand under the morning sky, no matter how cloudy or cold. I watch the branches sway. I listen to the birds fussing about their breakfast. Nature has a way of reminding my restless mind that life does not rush just because I feel behind. The trees do not scold me for my dark circles. The wind does not measure how many hours I slept. It simply moves, and invites me to do the same. Sometimes, when I feel brave, I talk to my family about my sleepless nights. I tell them gently, if I seem quieter today, if I forget small things, please know it is only because my body is asking for more care. It is not because I do not love you enough to be fully here. And almost always, they respond with more patience than I ever gave myself. If you, like me, wake after a restless night and feel shame wrap around your shoulders, I ask you to try this. Meet the morning like an old friend, not a punishment. Drink water slowly. Wash your face with cool water and say to your reflection, "It's all right. Today I will move gently." When you can, take a short rest in the afternoon without guilt. Lay your head down for 10 or 20 minutes. Even if you do not sleep, your body will thank you for the pause. And if you find yourself nodding off on the train, on the couch, let yourself drift for a moment. The world can wait. I learned that the real cruelty was not the lost sleep itself, but how I treated my weary self the day after. When I replaced blame with kindness, my body stopped fearing sleeplessness so much. It trusted that I would not punish it again and again for being human. In the next part, I will share how I found peace in the simple truth that perfect sleep is an illusion, that our bodies, like our minds, ebb and flow with the seasons of life, and that this, too, is a gentle freedom. But for now, if last night was restless for you, may today be soft. May you move slower. May you forgive the yawns and the forgetful moments. And may you remember, a tired body can still carry a kind heart. There was a time when I believed that if I could just find the perfect method, the flawless routine, the one secret everyone else must know, I would finally sleep like a stone every night for the rest of my life. I chased this idea the same way I once chased money, approval, and certainty, tirelessly, and in the end, uselessly. If you are listening to me now, maybe part of you is still searching for that magic formula. Maybe you think that someday you will discover a bedtime ritual so complete that worry will vanish forever. If so, let me offer you the soft truth I learned far too late: there is no perfect sleep, only peaceful imperfection. I came to understand this slowly, as all worthwhile truths arrive. First, I accepted that my body is not a machine. It does not obey commands like "sleep now, stay asleep, wake up happy." Some nights, my bones ache for no reason. Some nights, my thoughts wander despite all my best habits. Some nights are simply restless because life itself is restless sometimes. In my younger years, I blamed myself for every bad night. I thought I had failed my family by being tired. I thought I had failed myself by not being strong enough to silence my mind. And this self-blame only made my nights longer and my days harder. One spring evening, after years of fighting my own nature, I sat beside a small campfire alone in my yard. The night air was gentle, the fire flickered with an old friend's patience. And I realized then what sleep had been trying to tell me all along: it is not my enemy. It is not a test of my worth. It is not something I must conquer to prove I have my life under control. Instead, sleep is a season that visits as it pleases. Some nights, it comes quickly and holds me close until morning. Other nights, it lingers outside my door, wandering elsewhere before it remembers me again. And that is okay. My heart does not have to panic when sleep takes its time. My life does not collapse if one night runs longer than I wish. Since embracing this truth, I find that my restless nights feel softer. I no longer lie awake measuring my worth by how fast I fall asleep. If my eyes stay open, I breathe slowly, I speak kindly to myself: this is just another night. Morning will come, and you will still be here, still loved, still enough. I stopped comparing my sleep to others. I used to envy my wife's peaceful breathing beside me, or the way my friends joked about dozing off mid-sentence. I thought I was broken. Now I see, every body has its own rhythm, every mind its own storms. We cannot all sleep the same way, and we do not need to. This gentle acceptance has become one of my greatest comforts. I trust my body more now. I know that even after a poor night, it will find pockets of rest during the day. I no longer force myself to stay awake just to be productive. If my eyelids grow heavy, I welcome a short nap, a soft pause. No guilt, no apology. I wish I could hand this freedom to you the way an old man gives away a treasured book. I wish you could skip the years I lost fighting sleep and instead curl up tonight with the knowledge that imperfect sleep is not failure, it is simply life, unfolding as it will. So tonight, when you feel that old frustration bubbling up, the fear that tomorrow will be ruined if sleep doesn't arrive this instant, pause. Place your hand over your chest and remind yourself, I am not broken. I am simply human. And that is enough. In the next part, I will share my last and perhaps dearest truth, how I learned to bless each night with gratitude, no matter how short or long my rest was, and how this small gratitude turned my once fearful bed into a quiet haven. But for now, sit by this fire with me a little longer. Let go of the fantasy of perfect sleep. Hold instead the promise that tomorrow does not ask you to be flawless, only present, only gentle, only awake to the small miracles you might have missed while worrying about sleep. If you've stayed with me through all these parts, then you know by now, my story is not a promise of perfect sleep, but an invitation to meet your nights with softer hands. Before, I ended each day like a soldier laying down weapons, exhausted from fighting battles inside my head. I saw my bed as an enemy camp, a place where regret waited, where fear rehearsed tomorrow's failures, where silence grew loud enough to swallow hope. But over time, I learned to bless my nights, no matter how uncertain they looked. It is a small ritual, simple and free, yet it has changed how my heart rests against my pillow. Every evening, before I turn off the last light, I sit at the edge of my bed. I take a slow breath and name 3 small things I am grateful for, never grand victories, just humble pieces of my day that survived the noise of my mind. Some nights, it's as simple as, I heard my daughter laugh today. Or, I tasted warm soup when I was hungry. Or, I watched the rain clean the dust from my old garden. These tiny blessings remind me that not everything in my life demands worry. That even when sleep stays away for a while, life itself remains kind in small ways I often overlook. Once I finish counting these soft treasures, I place my hand over my chest and tell myself, thank you for getting through this day. You did enough. You are enough. Sleep if you can, rest if you cannot. And I mean it, rest if you cannot sleep. It took me so many restless nights to learn that resting is not the same as sleeping, yet it is still holy in its own quiet way. To rest is to tell the body, I trust you to heal, even when you lie awake. There are nights, of course, when old habits tap my shoulder. Regret, fear, the little anxieties that think they own me. When they appear, I do not argue anymore. I greet them, I sit with them for a moment, and then I bless them too. Thank you for trying to protect me all these years. But tonight, you may rest as well. With this blessing, my bed has become my ally, not my battlefield. A place where I am allowed to be imperfect and tired, yet still deserving of peace. Some who hear this might say, "Old man, you make it sound so simple." And maybe it is. Maybe the truth has always been simple, but I was too busy proving I could handle life alone to accept it. Now, with a head of white hair and a heart finally learning softness, I see that surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. If you find comfort here by my fireside words, then carry this one promise with you: your worth does not shrink on sleepless nights. You are no less deserving of love, kindness, or gentle mornings just because you lay awake counting minutes in the dark. And if tomorrow you wake feeling heavy-eyed, move slowly, drink your tea, watch the sun greet you anyway. Forgive the restless hours behind you. Bless the day ahead with the same grace you wish your nights could hold. My friend, you have walked this long road of worry beside me tonight. You have heard my regrets and my quiet lessons. Now, I offer you my final blessing. May your pillow feel lighter, your breath softer, your thoughts kinder. May sleep visit you soon, but may rest hold you always. If ever you feel alone on another restless night, remember this old soul sits by the fire, waiting to whisper again when the world feels too loud to sleep. And if you wish, you may return, and perhaps, while you listen, you might close your eyes and drift away, knowing you are safe here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting my imperfect truths. And thank you for giving your weary heart permission to rest, one night at a time. Good night, my friend. Sleep peacefully when you can. Rest always, no matter what.